Hello and welcome to Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio. This is Stefan, your host, British by birth, American by choice. The Founding Fathers crafted some remarkable documents that led to the creation of a great country founded on liberty and self-reliance. I have lived in the Euro-socialist nightmare, and I'm doing what I can to return this country to the vision that the Founding Fathers gave us. We need to strive to rebuild that shining city on the hill, for without us, the world has nowhere to turn for freedom. For the next hour, I will be presenting news, views, and guests that help keep the true spirit of America alive. And good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whenever you're listening to the show. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, welcoming you to episode 212 of Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio. Looking forward to sharing a lot of different things with you this evening. There's a lot going on, and be interesting to see how this all develops out over the next few weeks as well. A lot of it is not good for the Regressives, and hopefully will have an impact on what's going to happen in November. But I'm going to have to rely on you, my audience, as well, to help keep some of these memes alive, keep some of these messages going out, and tell those fence sitters, those people who don't really know which way they want to vote or think they have to vote Democrat, highlight all these things going on and make sure that they're aware of them, and perhaps it will help them make their decision the correct one when it comes to November. Now, when it comes to November, hopefully the GOP and the Conservatives will have the right message, because it isn't just that we've got to persuade people not to vote for the Regressives. We also have to give them something to vote for. So I'm not active in nation or even statewide politics at this point in time. So I can't influence that much. I can influence bringing out the stories that will prevent people from voting for the Regressives, but we also need to make sure we get some good reasons to vote for, because voting for is actually a much more positive, is a much more powerful message than trying to stop someone from voting for a particular group. So, plenty to do, plenty to get on with, but for the moment, let's get on to our different news items. And first of all, I have to say, coming to you again from outside beautiful historic Cumming Township. Yes, I'm still in the Patrick Come Lately new studios, although it's not outfitted as a studio yet. Still working on that. So if it sounds a little echoey, my apologies for that. And let me just open up the chat room here. If you're listening to this live, do go to the chat room, green bubble at the right-hand bottom part of your screen, and let me know that you're out there. Love to hear from you. First of all, condolences. Condolences, because today is tax day. Yes, that day when everybody scrambles to get their tax returns in because they procrastinated. I have to admit that I didn't do my extension until yesterday. I have the excuse, hopefully, of having been moving essentially for the last 4 months, so it's been a little difficult to keep up with those sort of things. So I decided definitely to do an extension this year, but you have to remember you've got to pay, so I had to make an estimate of what I needed to, or what I should be paying. Made sure that estimate was a little higher than necessary so I don't get slapped with all sorts of penalties, and then in a few weeks I will sit down and work out what it should actually be, and hopefully recoup some of what I had to send to Uncle Sam. But as I said, condolences. It shouldn't be this difficult. If we had the fair tax, you wouldn't even need to do this anymore. If we had flat tax or any of the other suggestions, then things would be a lot simpler, but not this tremendously complicated way of having to do our taxes each year. And I want to talk about the tax day rally that I told you about last week. I did attend that, and there was some good both there and obviously commentators during yesterday and today making comments about what's been going on. There were some very good comments about why, in actual fact, this is going on, why we have to have tax day, and whether or not it's actually legal. I was listening to a show on Red State Talk Radio where somebody was being interviewed who basically explained exactly why what the government is doing is illegal. Of course, the Supreme Court seems to think differently, but the arguments are very strong. And I don't want to kind of steal the thunder from that author. He has a book there out there, and I will mention his site. I think it's superscam.com. So superscam.com. Go read it. But the gist of what he said was that, first of all, the Constitution never allowed for an income tax in the way that it's defined. First of all, income is not defined at all in the bill, in the original bill, and it was never intended to cover personal income. It was actually intended to cover income of companies. That was the original intention at the time of the bill. That was number one. Number two, that the Constitution never intended for the federal government to levy any kind of overall tax like that. If you read the exact parts of the Constitution, basically the author says the intention was that the states would levy what was needed, would levy it according to their own requirements, but that the federal government could basically say, based on the number of people, this is the amount of money that I want the state to give to me. Yesterday at the tax day rally, one of the speakers there showed very clearly how the 16th and 17th amendments took away a lot of the power from the states and gave it to the federal government. The 16th, obviously, because of the income tax, and the 17th because of the election of senators as opposed to having them appointed by the states, which was the original intention of the founders. So, I mean, that second one takes away power is very obvious. But the 16th amendment, the income tax, as I said earlier on, that the intention really was that the states would collect taxes and then forward them to the federal government, and then through their senators, prior to the 17th Amendment, they would have a lot of impact on how that money would be spent. Now they have no impact whatsoever, and it just goes straight to the government. And this is where the power play of the government and the progressives, or regressives as I like to call them, really shows that they realized by doing that they could get the money straight into Washington, and then that would give them the power. Remember, money is power, especially in politics, and we see it time and time again. So, the tax day rally in Cumming. As I said, one of the speakers, Tom Knox, who's running for a state level position, talked about the 16th and 17th Amendments, explained about this power grab and how having the federal government control the income tax and also obviously the taxes, the income taxes on companies, which was the original intention of the income tax, that gives Washington tremendous power even if we didn't have the fair tax. And if you think about it, the fair tax is actually a federal tax and still kind of retains some federal to it. And one of the things that Tom Knox mentioned that I thought was a very good idea was that actually, yes, we should go back to what the founders intended, was that basically if the government wanted to levy a tax on people and have one per head, they would just say, okay, based on the number of people in the country, we need this amount of money. Therefore, each state needs to contribute according to the number of people in their state, and they would leave it up to the state to decide how best to get that money together. So whether it be income tax, sales tax, whatever, the state would each be responsible. And this would, again, go back to states' rights and also the ability for people to choose where they want to live. If they wanted to be in the Northeast, where they might have very strict income and very progressive income taxes, so rich people are being taxed heavily, whereas other states elsewhere might choose to do it more through sales taxes or any kind of consumption tax. And whoever was most business-friendly, job-friendly, and person-friendly would be the most successful and let the states fight it out. But because everything's done at the federal level, there's no opportunity to have those kinds of experiments. And that's one of the things that I think the founders didn't intend to have happen. But it is what it is now, so we're going to have to work hard to get it changed, and we won't change it overnight. It'll take a long time. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't stop trying. Another thing that was said at the Tax Day rally was a reminder that at one point George Washington and his army actually went down to about 1,800 men. That was the lowest number that they had at any one time. And if you look at the tens of thousands of British army and mercenaries that the British were bringing in, you sort of say 1,800 men, they should have just been overwhelmed. And yet George Washington persisted. He persevered, and we are where we are today thanks to his success. And the speaker who was talking about that said, we shouldn't give up either. We may be the Tea Party, maybe not quite as active, not as big as it has been in the past, but it is active, and we are persistent. And I think that's a very good thing to see. We are persistent. And if we keep persevering and working hard, we can achieve great things. And we can turn this country around. We can turn all this debt around. And who knows, maybe we can even turn some of this taxation around and reduce the size of government so taxation gets reduced, and maybe even get taxation back into the states where it belongs. So that would be great if that could happen, but who knows? Anyway, April 15th, another rather sad special day today, and that is the fact that it's a year since the Boston Marathon bombing. Of course, there were ceremonies today to celebrate that with a moment of silence at the time that the bombs went off. Some stupid nutcase, and I think that's the only way you can describe them, some stupid nutcase decided it would be funny to plant backpacks near the Boston Marathon finish line. Well, you can imagine what kind of reaction that elicited. On the one hand, indignation from a lot of people, but also, of course, shutting down, bomb squads, everything. People really worried that something was going on. Whoever did this is not funny, right? People died, hundreds were hurt, hundreds of people were hurt, sometimes not physically, but mentally as well. And then you think it's funny to go and plant bagpacks there. Well, not funny at all. And I hope the police find out who did it. I hope they have cameras, and I hope they give them what they deserve. Oh, one thing I forgot. Yeah, let me go back quickly to the Tax Day rally incoming. As I said, a small one of the themes, one of the topics that one of the speakers talked about was that there was a small number of people who actually made the American Revolution successful. And let's remember, at one point, only one or as many as 1/3 of the colonialists wanted to stay British. So there was quite a large percentage who didn't want independence. And at one time, really, the really active people were only 3%. Well, at the Tax Day rally, I have to say it was a great rally, some good speakers, and I'll talk about a couple of key ones in a moment. I was a little disappointed with the number of people there, and I think that's why that speaker may have had as his topic, we can do great things as long as we're persistent, even if we're only small in number. In many ways, people think the Tea Party is dead. I don't think it is, but it's not as active as it was. For those of you that think alike with the Tea Party, right, taxed enough already, let's get away from all the broad conservative, let's do everything kind of thing. Let's focus on the fiscal responsibility. That is the way to win the people in. Let's go back to that. Let's go back to the true Tea Party ideals and forget all the social conservatism, any other kind of conservatism. Let's focus on fiscal conservatism, first of all, because if we don't do that, we're going to lose the country, and then all of the other kinds of conservatism will have no place either. So we need to win back the country, and the way to do that is by starting off with fiscal conservatism. We really need to do that. We need fiscal conservatism, and we need to stick to the Constitution. And that was a theme that came back again and again and again during this Tax Day rally. A couple of the speakers that I mentioned Tom Knox. There were one or two other ones. We had our local representative came and gave a very stirring speech at the beginning. Don't have his name, apologies for that. But two other people that did speak are candidates in the upcoming elections. The first one was David Pennington, who is actually running for governor against Nathan Deal. I think Nathan Deal isn't term limited out yet. He is going to run against him. And I have to say, his message was very good. His message, and we're going to come across that with the other candidate as well, was we have to stick to the Constitution and we have to try and reduce wasteful spending. We have to try and reduce spending, but especially wasteful spending. But we have to reduce spending because we can't keep spending the way we are. So I don't know about the other candidates yet, but David Pennington here in Georgia, obviously somebody to watch out for. The other candidate, when I saw his name, kind of did a double take. He's running for the Senate, and he's the Reverend Derek Grayson. Now, he is a great speaker. He had a great message, and his message as well was that it doesn't matter whether you're Democrat or Republican. It doesn't matter whether you say you're middle-of-the-road Republican or conservative Republican. He said the only measure of a person should be, do they follow and support the Constitution 100%. He said because so many in Congress say, I'm a conservative, yet when it comes to actually doing anything, they do not follow the Constitution. And I know I've had so many examples in this show, I'm not going to go over them right now, but so many examples in this show of people ignoring the Constitution when they say they're conservatives. We need constitutional conservatives, which will lead to fiscal conservatives as well. That's what we need. And if you see someone who claims to be a conservative, look at their voting record, especially if they're already in Washington. And if they've ever voted for anything that's against the Constitution, cross them off your list. We need to have people who are really for the Constitution, and that was something that Derek Grayson, and of course, you know, for me, Grayson leaves a bad taste in the mouth because that used to be my congressman before I moved away. But this is a very different Grayson, and I went up and shook his hand and said it would be good to have a good Grayson in Washington. Hopefully you make it to offset the bad disgrayson that is currently representing Osceola County. And hopefully he's going to get voted out anyway. He may get primaried out, and if not, the Conservative candidate, I hope, will beat him. He's got a lot of money, so it won't be easy, but hopefully we'll get rid of him. Okay, folks, time for the first commercial break. Stick with me. I'll be back after these messages.
Are you paying too much for your car insurance policy? Have you shopped your current plan in the last year? If you haven't, then you probably are paying too much. You could save up to 40% on your current car insurance coverage just by making a free call right now. Doesn't it make good sense to pay less for something you have to pay for anyway? And car insurance is one of those things. You got to have car insurance, whether you have one car or 10 cars. So why not see if you can pay a lot less for it right now? One quick 3-minute call, and you could save hundreds of dollars on your car insurance. We'll compare the leading car insurance companies and get you coverage that could save you up to 40% on your car insurance. Call now for a free quote. Call 800-603-9980. 800-603-9980. 800-603-9980. 800-603-9980. That's 800-603-9980.
Are you tired of commuting to a job that makes someone else rich, working harder than ever, but getting nowhere? Do you hate spending hundreds of dollars every week on daycare, having someone else raise your children? With our opportunities, you can start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss, work from home, and live a happier life. At Be the Boss Network, you'll find hundreds of work-from-home opportunities that you can literally start today and be earning money as soon as next week. Go to freedom112.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss. Get out of the rat race. Work from home. Go to freedom112.com right now and change your life today. That's freedom112.com. Go to freedom112.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You be the boss. Go to freedom112.com.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. And thank you for sticking with me through that break. We were talking about the Tax Day rallying coming. It was a good event, and my congratulations to the Forsyth County Tea Party Alliance. I hope I've got that right. They did a great event. However, let's move on. I did promise you some more regressive stroke liberal hypocrisy, and this one just screams for sharing with my listeners. So let's go to a new topic. And this time we have another regressive exposed. I'm talking about Elijah Cummings. He's a representative from the great state of Maryland. Now, you may remember Elijah Cummings because I think he's the ranking Democrat on one of the House subcommittees. He had an altercation with Representative Issa and has been very vocal about the so-called IRS witch hunt, especially the persecution of Lois Lerner. In general, I'd say, well, that's his right. Why he was so vocal about it, sort of interesting, because you think if someone's done wrong, then they ought to be punished for it. But he seemed to think that she hadn't done anything wrong, and that the IRS hadn't done anything wrong. And he was very vocal about that and calling it a witch hunt and everything. And then there were some rumors about the fact that he and or his staff may have been in collusion with the IRS and requesting information which is basically privileged information which the IRS is not supposed to share with anyone about some of the groups that were being investigated by the IRS, specifically the True the Vote organization. Apparently there was a lot of communications backwards and forwards. At least there were rumors about that. Now, Elijah Cummings strenuously denied that and said, no, there's nothing there. To use the words of another imposter, not a smidgen of corruption there. However, proof has now surfaced and is in the hands of the lawyers of the True the Vote organization that Representative Cummings did have secret backroom discussions and emails with Lois Lerner about the True the Vote organization, was able to get information about them, and even to the extent of them, Representative Cummings or people on his staff asking particular questions, and the next day a letter went out from the IRS basically asking True the Vote to provide the answer to these specific questions. Well, the IRS is not supposed to act in that regard, and if you get a letter from the IRS saying, here's some stuff that you need to answer, it is expected that it stays within the IRS. Now it seems that the IRS was gathering that information on behalf of a Democratic politician. Talk about corruption. That is the corruption of the highest level. So not a smidgen. No, it wasn't a smidgen. It was a whole boatload of corruption there. And he strenuously denied it. Now we have proof, and it turns out that the lawyers of the True the Vote organization have actually submitted an ethics complaint against Elijah Cummings. And I hope the full weight of the House comes down on him. Now, nothing's going to happen because look at Charlie Rangel got off with a slap on the wrist, and I'm sure Elijah Cummings will. And the reason for that, like Charlie Rangel was black, Elijah Cummings is black, and nobody will dare do anything about it and give them what they deserve. Very annoying, but, that's the way it is. But I hope that at the very least he gets the slap on the wrist to show that we are watching, that we know what he's doing. But we'll see what happens there. Okay, let's see how we're doing for time. We have a bit more time before the next commercial break, so I think it's time for a new topic. And this one, things get worse and worse, and I'd almost say if you were to write this in a novel, people would say, "Oh, you've got such a vivid imagination. This is something like that could never possibly happen in real life." Well, remember last week we said, "Yay, Kathleen Sebelius has resigned as Secretary of Health and Human Services," and the White House was had quite quickly leaked that her replacement would be a lady called Sylvia Burwell. Now, some of the things I saw talked about with Sylvia Burwell was the fact that she had been overwhelmingly supported when she was appointed to the director of the Office of Management and Budget, so director of OMB, which is a cabinet level post, so it needs to be approved by the Senate. And apparently she was overwhelmingly 83 or something, or even more than that, voted for her. So she's sort of, everybody saying, well, she must be good, she must be clean, because everybody voted for her. Well, I found some information today, and I beg to differ, because Sylvia Burwell, actually, as director of OMB, does actually have a little bit of a storied history. And why is that? Well, it was the OMB that is in charge of government personnel, and government personnel during the government so-called shutdown last year. And Sylvia Burwell, as director of OMB, was the same person that ordered the unprecedented move of closing open-air memorials, monuments, and parks to the public. So now we get more things of coming out of the woodwork. So she's very close with her buddy King Barry, and now she gets promoted for shutting down and inconveniencing all the vets and all. Remember the brouhaha about that? Well, before we talk more about her, because there's a bit more that you need to know, I'm going to take a quick break because it is time for the next commercial break, and I do need to try and pay the rent here. So just hang on a moment, folks. I will be back after these next set of messages.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment, and credit qualification require. Cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-865-5017. That's 1-800-865-5017. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-865-5017 for details.
Why spend more than you have to on your life insurance? Did you know that term life insurance rates have fallen over 60% in the last 15 years? At the Life Insurance Quote Line, we monitor the rates, features, and financial strength of hundreds of life insurance products. For example, a healthy 40-year-old can protect his family with $500,000 of 10-year level term for less than $20 a month. Rates for women are even lower. And don't forget to ask us about the new term life policies that guarantee your money back even if you don't die. Since 1986, we've helped tens of thousands of people just like you save a fortune on their life insurance. Why not find out how much you can save? Write down this number and call today for your free quote. 1 5-minute call is all it takes. Call 800-915-9734. 800-915-9734. That's 800-915-9734. Rates, policy forms, and availability vary by state.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. And Welcome back. We're into the second half of the show here. We were talking about this promotion that was given to Sylvia Burwell, and in the first instance, I have to admit, I thought, well, if she was voted into her OMB position by so many senators, must all be good. But now it turns out she wasn't. So obviously, she's very close to King Barry, so was it her decision? Was it King Barry's whispering in her ear that caused her to actually send the emails that that were telling the park rangers to make things as inconvenient as possible? And just to remind you, we were told that that the federal government didn't have enough money, didn't have enough of our tax dollars to allow people like the World War II vets to walk across a public sidewalk to visit the monument honoring these heroes. And yet, during that same time, crony capitalism, earmarks, waste and fraud continued to fill the swamp. At the same time, the first family continued to live elaborately large, hold parties, etc., etc. This is absolute. It was bad enough, but now the cold, callous bureaucrat who directed it, and now she's getting promoted. So it shows you, in this administration, you get promoted for doing bad things, and no one ever gets fired, right? Lois Lerner didn't get fired. Sebelius didn't actually get fired when she should have been fired. Just unbelievable. Now, one person, and like I said, I didn't see this, I didn't do my homework on her, but one person did, and that person was Sarah Palin. Sarah Palin is I think was the first person to realize who she was, and she called her a stain on the ash heap of history. And another thing that Palin says, her disturbing punitive priorities are now taking over people's health care. Yeah, nothing can go wrong with that. You can't make this stuff up. And I now realize, yet again, Sarah Palin is 100% right. Oh, folks, I know it would be a very difficult fight, but I still say I would love to see her in the White House. I think Sarah Palin would be the best president ever and would really clean house of both the GOP establishment and all the regressives in Democrats. She could really turn this country around, but too many people hate her. I don't see that happening. Now, another thing that the article that I saw, and it came through Breitbart, so that's always a good site to keep looking. Let's look at Sylvia Burwell's history, her recent history. Remember, she's the director of OMB, the Office of Management and Budget. So she's been the one in charge of putting together Obama's budgets. These are the same budgets that are always late and full of fantastical liberal dreams of unlimited spending and taxation. The same budgets that have been routinely rejected by both parties due to their sheer ridiculousness and absurdity. The same budget that just got voted down in the House 413-2. She's been the architect behind King Barry's insane budget plans, and she's the person in charge of closing down the memorials and ordering park rangers to make life as difficult as you can for regular American citizens. Now this progressive liberal partisan hack is going to be in charge of your health care and health care insurance. This woman should have been fired instead of getting a promotion. We certainly won't miss Sebelius, but Burwell will most definitely not be an improvement. Okay, let's see how we're doing for time. Oh, we've got plenty of time here. So next topic. And a quick one here. I saw that, and my headline here is, where in the Constitution does it say that the federal government can do this? Apparently, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the USDA, has issued new rules that pretty much ban schools from offering students the chance to buy any type of junk food at all, even in the vending machines that are on campus but operated by independent companies. The regulations which kick in this July say vending machines are only allowed to sell fruit, dairy products, whole grain foods, lean protein products or vegetable items that are less than 200 calories for snacks and 350 calories for entrees. Okay, so first of all, Michelle Obama's Let's Move Healthy Eating campaign limited what was sold in the cafeterias. Now the machines are being limited. In other words, the nanny state is in there again. But tell me, where in the Constitution does the USDA have the right to do that? The only thing is, if you take the words general welfare and apply them in the broader sense, which the Democrats are very good at doing, of course, that's the only place where you might be able to apply that. But otherwise, just another example of government overreach. And we've had plenty of examples. I think the whole Bundy aspect, Clive and Bundy, sort of seems to have beaten the Bureau of Land Management. But I think the bigger argument is, well, why is the BLM even able or allowed to be levying grazing fees, for example? That should be a state thing. And if you look at the map, I saw a map the other day, and often 80-90% of some of these western states is land which is owned one way or another by the federal government. Well, where do they get away with owning all that land? Again, is that constitutional? If you look at the Constitution, the only land they're supposed to own is to build forts and other roads, basically post roads. Although you could argue that the interstate system is a form of post road. But other than that, they're not supposed to have those kinds of things. So how do they get away with doing that? I don't know. Anyway, so the USDA as well, they're supposed to be, I thought the USDA was supposed to be looking after our food and making sure that our food is safe and not telling us what we can and cannot eat. Just make sure the food is safe, and it's up to us to decide whether it's too much fat, too much sugar, or whatever. Okay. I've said in the past, I'm trying to find positive topics to bring forward and have people have a good message to take to their friends, to their enemies, to their acquaintances, but a good message of why people should vote for Republicans, for conservatives. But the regressives keep throwing more and more things at me that I have to say, well, unfortunately, sometimes I have to bring the negative things out as well. We talked earlier about Elijah Cummings, who is now caught flat-footed lying. Of course, lying is Democrats, what Republicans call lying is what Democrats call the truth. But we've got something else. And that was a report in the Washington Times that Obamacare has one perhaps unintended consequence, or you have to pass this bill to find out what's in it. So not only if you like your health care plan, you can keep it, lie has come out, but senior citizens, and actually the most vulnerable senior citizens, are going to learn that if you like your home health care, you can keep it as well. Well, keep it in inverted commas, keep it the way that King Barry talks about keeping it. Obamacare opens a trapdoor under them, leaving this elderly population in free fall because many citizens are going to lose access to home health care. And what does that mean? Instead of relatively cheap home health care where these people can stay independent, they're going to have to go into homes where the costs are much higher and they're not comfortable. The people would rather be in their own home, but because the home health care is being got rid of, about 3.5 million elderly beneficiaries across the country were cut from Medicare's home health care services. Apparently the cut deleted exactly 14% or 22 billion from these lowest income Americans over 4 years. Now, this is something that trickled out last year, around about Thanksgiving, but nobody really noticed. But now it's gone into effect, and we should have these people out on the streets as well. But they're old people; they can't do that. Nobody will stand up for them. All the time, the Democrats say, "Oh, the Republicans are going to throw Granny over the cliff," when it's them. Actually, everything they say is a projection on what they themselves are doing. Okay, folks, my throat is telling me it's time for another commercial break. So let me play these commercials, and I'll be back in a moment.
Are you at least 62 years old like me? Could you use an extra $50,000, $100,000 or more to live a better life? Then please consider the benefits a reverse mortgage can provide to you. With a reverse mortgage, you can have your mortgage payments stopped altogether and get equity out of your home to live on. And you can use the money to help you live a better life. How nice would that be, not to have a mortgage payment? Qualifying for a reverse mortgage is simple, since there are no income, asset, employment, or credit requirements. However, you must be 62 years or older, own your home outright, or have a very low balance on the mortgage, and be prepared to live in it throughout the rest of the loan. Call now for more information.
800-704-1662. 800-704-1662. 800-704-1662. That's 800-704-1662.
I will never forget the day my son Jeremy told me he hated me and slammed the door in my face. I'm behavioral therapist Janet Lehman. Behavior problems can turn the child you love and your life into a nightmare. That's why my husband James and I created the Total Transformation, the step-by-step program that shows you how to fix the worst behavior problems and get your child to respect and listen to you again. No matter what the behavior, defiance, backtalk, angry outbursts, disrespect, we can help you stop it. Now you can get the Total Transformation for free. All you need to do is get the program and let us know how it works for you. You can keep it forever for free.
Limited number of free programs available. Call now. 1-800-259-1409. 1-800-259-1409. 1-800-259-1409. That's 1-800-259-1409.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. Okay, we've been negative about the regressives, the Democrats, liberals, socialists, whatever you want to call them. Thanks for sticking with me through the break. Just a quick reminder of who you're listening to and what I stand for.
Patriot Come Lately. British by birth, American by choice. Just like the Founding Fathers. The voice of the conservative resistance.
And I do want to say, if you're listening live, remember you can participate in the show by going to the chat room, little green bubble at the right-hand bottom part of the screen. Do want to say hi to Paul and Dave, who have joined. do let me know that you're out there. It's nice to know that you're out there. For those of you that listen to the recordings, whether it's at archives.patriotcomelately.us, whether it's via Red State Talk Radio Network, or even in the Phoenix area at KTFL 1620 AM, that rebroadcasts the Red State Talk Radio feed for part of their transmission time. So if you're listening to any of those, you're not listening live, so you may still like to participate in the show, and you can. The way to do that is to send me an email, and if you do that, I will handle it in the show. I will, but also I will send you an email back. I do like hearing from my listeners. So how do you contact me? Well, just listen to this, and then you'll know how you can get those questions and comments to me. If you would like to comment on any of the topics discussed on the show, please email me via stephan@patriotcomelately.us, or go to the show's website, www.patriotcomelately.us, and click on the contact button. You can also write your comments on the show's Facebook page. Just search in Facebook for the Patriot Come Lately Show. So folks, keep those questions and comments coming. But now it's time for a new topic, and let's see. And I'm going to talk now about the GOP. And when we start talking about the GOP establishment, there's one thing that I have to do. We have to warn you. That's right. Hit the alarm siren, because the GOP is up to its usual shenanigans. Now, I'm just looking at the clock. I don't think we have a lot of time to talk about this, and I may have to hold some of this over for next week again. But the GOP establishment in Washington, the elitist group there, is up to its usual tricks. And what they're doing, they are trying to push through the Paul Ryan budget. Now, the Paul Ryan budget is not a good budget. It doesn't reduce spending. The GOP says it reduces spending. No, it reduces the rate of increase of spending. So it's not really reducing spending by any means. However, not only that, but a lot of the conservatives were against it. And so now they're using all sorts of parliamentary tricks to push it through. Amongst other things, for Medicare, there is the so-called doc fix vote, which is basically a vote that they have to do every so often in order to make sure that the doctors get paid a reasonable amount for Medicare patients, instead of what is actually in the law, that they get paid a lot less, but then they made a fix on that to pay them the right amount. Well, and they finally got round to voting on that, and they did that by doing a voice vote. Now, that's very unusual for controversial votes, and there are only a few dozen representatives in the House when they did that. This is very unusual. A lot of conservatives were annoyed about that. So this just shows the GOP is up to its usual shenanigans. Anyway, so we got to watch out for them. Okay, folks, it's getting close to the end of the show. I want to thank you for listening this week, and please join me again next week. Not sure what topics we'll have, but just watch for my emails, Facebook, etc. I see the music's going to start, so I'll say TTFN, ta-ta for now. See you next week. Thank you for listening to the show. I hope that you enjoyed tonight's topics. Whether you listened live, to a recording, or to a rebroadcast, I appreciate the time you share with me. We need to spread the message of liberty far and wide, so please tell your friends and family about the show. Thank you for helping to keep the beacon of hope burning. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, signing off. God bless America, and remember, L3, long live liberty.